Jennifer, we need to discuss your promotion to regional manager. David Harrison, Senior Vice President of Pacific West Bank, sat across from Jennifer Park in his corner office overlooking downtown Los Angeles. The view was spectacular, 20 floors up, the city sprawling below. Jennifer had worked toward this promotion for 3 years. She'd exceeded every performance metric. Her branch had the highest customer satisfaction scores in Southern California. Her team had the lowest turnover rate in the region. She was ready, more than ready. "I'm excited to discuss it," Jennifer said, her professional smile in place. "I've prepared the transition plan you requested." David shifted uncomfortably. That's actually what I wanted to talk about. The board has some concerns about your readiness for the regional role. Have you ever been told you're perfect for a job, except for one thing you can't change about who you are? Jennifer Park was 42 years old, born and raised in Los Angeles to Korean immigrant parents. She'd been Muslim her entire life. Her parents had converted before she was born, part of a small but growing Korean Muslim community in Southern California. She'd worn hijab since she was 16, professional hijabs in corporate colors, elegant wraps that matched her business suits. She'd built her entire banking career while visibly Muslim. It had never been a problem until now. "Concerns about my readiness?" Jennifer asked carefully. "My performance reviews have been excellent. My branch metrics exceed regional averages in every category." "Your performance isn't the issue," David said quickly. "It's presentation. The regional manager position requires client-facing work with our highest value accounts, corporate leadership, major investors, executive networking events. The board feels that your religious attire might not project the image we want for that level of leadership." The words hit like ice water. "My hijab?" "Jennifer, you're an exceptional manager, but the regional role requires a different kind of visibility. You'd be representing the bank at events where perception matters. The board wants someone who fits the corporate image we're cultivating. And a Muslim woman in hijab doesn't fit that image." David looked away. "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." Jennifer stood, her hands surprisingly steady. "David, I've been with Pacific West for 12 years. I've been wearing hijab for all 12 years. When did my appearance become a problem? It's not a problem at the branch manager level, but regional management is different. It's more public, more high stakes. So I'm good enough to run a branch, but not visible enough to represent the bank? That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying, specifically?" David sighed. "The board wants you to consider adjusting your appearance for client meetings. You could wear your hijab at the office, but for executive events and investor meetings, perhaps a more neutral presentation." "You're asking me to take off my hijab to get promoted." "I'm asking you to be flexible about your religious expression in professional contexts where it might create barriers." Jennifer felt anger rising, but her voice remained calm. 12 years in banking had taught her to control her emotions in high-stakes conversations. "David, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act prohibits religious discrimination in employment. What you're describing is exactly that, denying a promotion based on religious expression." "We're not denying the promotion. We're offering guidance on professional presentation standards. Standards that only apply to me because I'm Muslim. Standards that require me to hide my religious identity to advance. That's discrimination." David's expression hardened. "Jennifer, I'd advise you to think carefully before making accusations. The bank has been very accommodating of your religious practices. We're simply asking for reciprocal flexibility." Accommodating. You don't accommodate my rights. You are required by law to respect them. Jennifer walked to the door, then turned back. I'll be consulting with an attorney. I suggest you consult with yours. She left before David could respond. In the elevator down to the 10th floor where her office was located, Jennifer's hands finally started shaking. 12 years. 12 years of excellence. And it all stopped at Hijab. But what Pacific West Bank didn't know was that Jennifer Park was meticulous. She documented everything, and she knew exactly who to call. That evening, Jennifer sat at her dining room table with her laptop open and a timeline spread across the surface. Her husband Daniel, a white American who'd converted to Islam when they married, sat beside her. "They really said you need to take off your hijab for the promotion?" Daniel asked, his voice tight with anger. "Not in those exact words, but that's what they meant. Adjust your appearance, more neutral presentation. Consider removing religious attire for client meetings." She pulled up files on her laptop. "But I've been preparing for this. I've documented every conversation about the promotion for the past year." Document 1. Email from David Harrison 8 months ago. "Jennifer, the board is very impressed with your branch performance. You're the top candidate for regional manager when Sarah retires. Keep up the excellent work." Document 2. Performance review. 6 months ago. "Jennifer Park exceeds expectations in all categories. Leadership, exceptional. Client relations, outstanding. Team development, exemplary. Recommended for advancement to regional management." Document 3. Email from David Harrison 3 months ago. "Jennifer, I wanted to give you a heads up that you're being considered for regional manager. The board wants to meet you next month. This is essentially a formality. The role is yours if you want it." So 3 months ago, the job was mine? What changed? She pulled up another document. This changed. Document 4. Internal memo from CEO Chang Chen 2 months ago. "As we expand our executive client services division, we need to ensure all customer-facing leaders project the professional image Pacific West is known for. Regional managers should embody corporate polish and mainstream professional standards." Mainstream professional standards, Daniel read. That's code for look white and Christian. "Or at least not visibly Muslim," Jennifer said bitterly. "And here's where it gets worse." She pulled up another file. "I started asking around, talking to other managers. Turns out I'm not the first." Document 5. LinkedIn conversation with former Pacific West employee. "I left Pacific West 3 years ago after being passed over for VP. They told me my appearance was too ethnic for executive leadership. I'm South Asian, wore traditional dress sometimes. Got the message loud and clear, assimilate or plateau." Document 6. Conversation notes with current Pacific West manager. "I was told to tone down my appearance if I wanted to advance. I'm Latina, wore larger hoop earrings and more colorful clothing. Was told it was not professional enough for senior roles." "They have a pattern," Jennifer said. "Women of color, especially those with visible religious or ethnic identities, hit a glass ceiling at branch manager. To go higher, you have to look mainstream, which means white, secular, neutral." Daniel looked at the documentation. This is a federal case. Title VII, EEOC, maybe even a class action if other women face the same barriers. "I know, which is why I'm calling the EEOC tomorrow and KAR and every employment attorney I can find." "You're going to war with your employer?" "They went to war with my career. I'm just fighting back." You won't believe what happened when Jennifer filed her complaint. 2 weeks later, Jennifer sat in the offices of Chang & Associates, a civil rights law firm specializing in employment discrimination. Attorney Lisa Chang reviewed Jennifer's documentation with growing interest. "This is textbook Title VII violation," Lisa said. "They promised you a promotion, then withdrew it based on religious appearance. That's religious discrimination. But the pattern you've documented, other women of color facing similar barriers, that's potentially systemic discrimination, and it's illegal." She opened her laptop. "Let me show you something." Lisa pulled up Pacific West Bank's executive leadership page. 23 executives. 18 were white, 3 were Asian men, 2 were white women. 0 were women of color in visible religious or ethnic dress. Notice a pattern? Lisa asked. No hijabs, no turbans, no visible religious identity. Exactly. Now look at branch manager demographics. She pulled up another page. Much more diverse, multiple women of color, several in hijabs, traditional dress, visible religious identity. They're fine with diversity at lower levels, but at executive levels, you have to assimilate. That's systemic discrimination, and it's illegal.
Lisa started typing. Here's what we're going to do. We're filing an EEOC complaint for religious discrimination and retaliation. We're also sending a demand letter to Pacific West outlining the pattern of discrimination and demanding policy reform. What about the promotion? We're demanding your immediate promotion to regional manager with back pay from when you should have been promoted. If they refuse, we file in federal court under Title VII. Jennifer felt her heart pounding. This is really happening. This is really happening. And Jennifer, you're not going to fight this alone. Lisa pulled out her phone and made a call. Hi, this is Lisa Chang. I'm representing Jennifer Park in a discrimination case against Pacific West Bank. I have documentation showing systematic discrimination against women of color and religious minorities. I think you'll want to see this. She hung up. That was the Los Angeles Times. They're sending a reporter tomorrow. The Los Angeles Times article dropped on a Wednesday morning. Pacific West Bank accused of hijab glass ceiling in executive promotions. Jennifer Park, 42, has been denied promotion to regional manager at Pacific West Bank despite exceeding all performance metrics. Internal emails and conversations suggest the denial was based on her wearing hijab, religious attire bank leadership deemed inconsistent with corporate image for executive roles. Park's attorney has provided documentation showing a pattern. Women of color with visible religious or ethnic identities advance to branch management but face barriers to executive leadership. Pacific West's 23-person executive team includes 0 women of color in religious attire, despite multiple qualified candidates at branch manager level. This is systemic discrimination disguised as professional standards, said Lisa Chang, Park's attorney. Pacific West allows diversity at lower levels, but requires assimilation for advancement. That's illegal. The article included Jennifer's photo. Professional headshot, elegant navy blue hijab, warm smile. She looked exactly like what she was, a competent banking executive. The story went viral. By Thursday, national media had picked it up. CNN. Korean-American Muslim manager says bank denied promotion over hijab. NPR. Banking industry faces questions about religious diversity in leadership. Wall Street Journal. Corporate image standards under scrutiny after discrimination complaint. Pacific West Bank's stock dropped 3% as investors worried about legal exposure and reputational damage. The bank's PR team issued a statement. Pacific West Bank values diversity and inclusion. We do not discriminate based on religion, ethnicity, or appearance. We are reviewing the allegations and will respond appropriately. But the damage was done. Current and former employees began sharing their own stories. Within 48 hours of the Los Angeles Times article, 17 current Pacific West employees contacted Lisa Chang's office. All women, all people of color. All with stories of being told their appearance was not corporate enough for advancement. Lisa organized a conference call with all 17. Maria Rodriguez, branch manager. I was told my hoop earrings were too much for executive meetings. I'm Latina. These earrings are part of my culture. But to get promoted, I'd have to dress more conservatively, which meant dress more white. Priya Patel, assistant vice president. I was told my bindi was distracting for client meetings. I'm Hindu. The bindi is religious, but I was advised to save it for personal time if I wanted to advance. Keisha Washington, branch manager. I wore my natural hair in braids, was told it was not professional for executive roles. I straightened my hair for 6 months, hated myself the whole time, finally stopped and accepted I wouldn't be promoted. Story after story, pattern after pattern. Women of color told to minimize their ethnic, religious, or cultural identities to advance. Lisa realized this was bigger than Jennifer's case. This was systemic. This was a class action. How many of you would be willing to join a federal lawsuit? Lisa asked. All 17 hands went up on the video call. 3 weeks after Jennifer's initial EEOC complaint, Lisa Chang filed a class action lawsuit in Federal District Court, Central District of California. Park versus Pacific West Bank et al. Plaintiffs, Jennifer Park, lead, plus 17 additional named plaintiffs, plus class of all women of color denied advancement based on appearance standards at Pacific West Bank. Claims: Title VII religious discrimination, Title VII race discrimination, disparate impact discrimination.
Retaliation. Pattern and practice discrimination. Relief sought. Immediate promotion for Jennifer Park with back pay. Policy reform, eliminating discriminatory appearance standards. Mandatory diversity training for all management. Independent monitoring of promotion decisions. Compensatory damages, estimated $2.3 million for the class. Punitive damages. The lawsuit included devastating evidence. Statistical analysis. Branch managers, 37% women of color with visible religious or ethnic identity. Regional managers, 8% women of color, 0% with visible religious or ethnic identity. Executive leadership, 0% women of color with visible religious or ethnic identity. Internal communications, multiple emails and memos using phrases like mainstream professional appearance, corporate polish, client-appropriate presentation, minimize cultural or religious distinctions at the executive level. Expert testimony. Dr. Sarah Kim, organizational psychologist, provided analysis showing Pacific West's appearance standards had disparate impact on women of color and religious minorities, creating a conformity ceiling where advancement required assimilation. The lawsuit made national headlines. Banking industry publications covered it extensively. HR professionals shared it as a cautionary tale. Pacific West Bank's legal team went into crisis mode. As discovery proceeded, Pacific West Bank realized how bad their situation was. The evidence was overwhelming. Smoking Gun Email 1, CEO Margaret Chen to HR Director. For executive roles, we need people who look like our high net worth clients. Traditional, professional, mainstream. Jennifer Park is excellent, but her hijab sends the wrong message for that client base. Smoking Gun Email 2, VP David Harrison to a colleague. I don't care if it's religious. At executive level, appearance is part of the job. She can wear hijab at home. These emails would be devastating at trial. The explicit admission that hijab was the barrier to promotion, combined with the statistical evidence and pattern testimony, made Pacific West's position indefensible. 4 months into litigation, Pacific West's attorneys approached Lisa Chang about settlement. We're prepared to offer Jennifer the regional manager position with full back pay, they said. Not enough. This is a class action now. 18 women, plus likely dozens more who'll come forward once they see others being compensated. What do you want? Systemic reform. New promotion standards explicitly protecting religious and ethnic expression. Independent oversight of promotion decisions. Mandatory bias training for all leadership, and $4.5 million for the class, $250,000 for Jennifer, $100,000 each for the 17 named plaintiffs, fund for future claims. That's substantial. So was your discrimination. Take it or take your chances with a jury. Pacific West's attorneys consulted with their client. The math was simple. Settling for $4.5 million was cheaper than trial costs, $2+ million, potential punitive damages, unlimited, ongoing negative publicity, federal investigation, EEOC had opened a separate inquiry, stock price impact. 2 weeks later, they agreed to settle. The settlement press conference was held at Lisa Chang's office. Jennifer stood at the podium, wearing a burgundy hijab that matched her professional suit. Today, Pacific West Bank has agreed to a comprehensive settlement addressing systemic discrimination against women of color and religious minorities, Jennifer announced. She outlined the terms. Settlement components. 1. Jennifer Park promoted to regional manager, effective immediately with $250,000 compensation. 2. $1.7 million distributed to 17 named plaintiffs, $100K each. 3. $2.5 million fund for future discrimination claims. 4. Complete overhaul of promotion standards explicitly protecting religious and ethnic expression. 5. Independent Diversity Council with authority to review promotion decisions. 6. Mandatory unconscious bias training for all management, annual. 7. Public diversity dashboard showing demographic data at all levels. 8. 5-year monitoring by federal court.
This settlement isn't just about me, Jennifer continued. It's about every woman of color who's been told to minimize herself to advance. Every Muslim woman who's been told her hijab is too much. Every professional who's been told their culture doesn't fit corporate America. She gestured to the 17 women standing behind her, diverse in ethnicity, religion, age, but united in having faced the same discrimination. We're proof that you don't have to choose between your identity and your career. You can be fully yourself and fully professional. And any company that tells you otherwise is breaking the law. Jennifer Park sat in her new office, 22nd floor, corner window, nameplate reading Regional Manager. Her hijab today was forest green, matching her power suit. She just finished a meeting with Pacific West's largest investor, a conservative elderly white man who'd expressed initial skepticism about working with her. 2 hours later, he'd signed a new $50 million investment. "Your religious attire didn't seem to be a barrier," David Harrison said, stopping by her office. He'd kept his position, but now reported to Jennifer. Competence isn't about appearance, it's about performance. Maybe you should have remembered that a year ago. The relationship was professional but cool. David had learned a $4.5 million lesson about discrimination. Pacific West's new diversity metrics were publicly tracked. Year 1 post-settlement. Women of color in management, 41%, up from 31%. Women of color in executive roles, 18%, up from 0%. Visible religious minorities in leadership, 12%, up from 0%. The changes weren't just numbers. The culture had shifted. Women no longer felt pressure to minimize their identities to advance. Jennifer mentored 3 Muslim women at Pacific West, all now on leadership tracks. Seeing a hijabi regional manager had shown them advancement was possible. Jennifer's case became a landmark in corporate discrimination law, but the impact went beyond Pacific West. Banking industry changes. 23 major banks revised appearance and grooming policies. The American Bankers Association issued diversity guidelines. The Federal Reserve included religious accommodation in supervision standards. Business schools taught Park versus Pacific West as a case study. Broader corporate impact. Fortune 500 companies reviewed promotion standards. HR departments rewrote professional appearance policies. Corporate diversity consultants used Jennifer's case in training. The Park Standard, explicitly protecting religious or ethnic expression, became industry norm. But Jennifer's favorite outcome was personal. She was promoted to senior vice president after 2 years as regional manager. When she walked into executive leadership meetings, the only woman in hijab in a room of 23 executives, she represented something important. You could look like yourself and belong at the highest levels. Your hijab wasn't a barrier. It was part of who you were. And who you were could include corporate executive.
At 47, Jennifer Park was executive vice president of Pacific West Bank, overseeing all California operations. She'd surpassed the role she'd originally been denied. She spoke at corporate diversity conferences, always delivering the same message. 5 years ago, I was told my hijab wasn't corporate image for executive leadership. Today, I help set that corporate image, and it includes me. The banking industry had to learn what every industry needs to learn. Diversity isn't just about entry-level hiring. It's about who makes it to leadership. And if your leadership doesn't reflect your workforce diversity, you have a problem. That problem is usually called the glass ceiling. But for women of color with religious or ethnic identities, it's more specific. It's the conformity ceiling, the invisible barrier that says you can advance, but only if you assimilate. My case broke that ceiling at Pacific West, but it's still intact at countless companies. Muslim women are still told to remove hijabs for promotions. Sikh men are still told to cut their hair. Black women are still told to straighten their natural hair. Every time we accept those demands, we reinforce the idea that corporate America has a look, and that look is white, secular, and conformist. We need to change that, not just in banking, everywhere. Jennifer Park's case created lasting change in corporate America. Legal impact, cited in 47 employment discrimination cases, used by EEOC in enforcement actions, referenced in corporate law courses nationwide, created precedent for conformity ceiling discrimination. Corporate impact, 127 companies revised appearance policies. Religious accommodation became standard in executive leadership. Diversity metrics expanded to track visible minorities in leadership. Corporate boards questioned why executive teams lacked religious diversity. Cultural impact. Muslim women saw hijab wasn't a barrier to executive leadership. Corporate culture shifted toward authenticity over assimilation. Professional appearance redefined to include religious expression. The next generation of professionals didn't have to choose between their identity and advancement. But the impact Jennifer valued most was simple. 3 Korean American Muslim girls reached out and thanked her. "I'm in high school. I want to go into business, but I thought wearing hijab would limit me. You showed me it doesn't. Thank you for fighting." That's why Jennifer fought, not just for herself, for every girl who thought her hijab was a career obstacle, for every professional told to minimize their identity to advance. She proved them wrong. 1 lawsuit, 1 settlement, 1 woman refusing to choose between her faith and her career. That's how Jennifer Park changed corporate America. Have you faced the conformity ceiling? Been told your religious or ethnic identity isn't professional enough for advancement? Jennifer's lesson: document everything. Performance metrics matter. Title VII protects you. Don't accept that you have to choose between your identity and your career. Corporate America doesn't get to tell you what professional looks like. You do.